It's time for the show about the people and the places of the Carolinas, with the occasional visitors. In addition to hosting the award-winning syndicated TV show Life in the Carolinas, Carl White writes a weekly syndicated column and now hosts this weekly show, the Life in the Carolinas podcast. Now you can hear the story about the stories. And now, here's your host, Carl White.
Rick Balentine, how are you, buddy?
I'm well. How are you, Carl?
I'm doing great.
Good.
You're doing some incredibly exciting things. We're going to talk about all of it. Right today, we're going to start off by talking about a new project you've got in Wilkes County. And it's around racing. It's around the racing heritage. Timing could not be better for that.
I know. Actually, what triggered the whole thing was the timing, the opening of the racetrack. I mean, that was the genesis of the whole idea of the story.
Now, you were working on the concept before, though, right? Or was it just hearing that something may be coming with the track?
So what really happened is I attend Celebration Church here, and on the way home one day to Charlotte, I passed this monster thing on the left. I'm like, what is that? And I called Tom, who is one of the pastors there. I said, what is this? He says, oh, that's North Wilkesboro Speedway. Mm-hmm. I said, man, it looks amazing. What is that? And so he told me kind of the story. Right. And then he sent me a article of somebody famous that wanted to pour money into it. And there was this groundswirl of we want you back. And then he told me the story with, how Terry was involved. Terry Parsons is involved in this. And then from that story, when I left there, all the way down the 421, down the 77 to the 485 till I got home, I had the story written.
Wow. That's
how it happened.
So that was the beginning. So it's one of those things that the timing was not only just right from a story support standpoint, but for you.
Oh,
it to come that quickly, right?
It was perfect. It was almost divine. I called one of my partners, to Neil. I said, Neil, we got to write this story. I got an idea for a story. So we wrote it. And just I hadn't been here that long in Wilkesboro, so I didn't know Wilkes County. I didn't understand the history. And so I quickly started learning the history as well. And it just drove this fictional story. That's very funny, very heartwarming,
right? And
it's really about saving the track.
Yeah, wow. Well, there's so many different angles that we can look at in talking about that story, and we're going to do that. We're going to get into more of that. But let's start talking about your background a little bit.
Okay.
And background not from a background standpoint, like prove who you are, because we can read a bio. We know what you've done, so all of that's quite impressive. And we'll talk about that too. But what I want to know is what little Rick was like growing up, and what put you on this creative path.
Can we edit this?
Who am I going to tell anyway?
Right.
Who am I going to
Nobody's
tell?
watching, right?
Well, unfortunately, not as many as we'd like. But
I don't know.
Yeah, we got a few. So, and we love them all. But let's talk about growing up. We already know you were a bit of a prodigy, and at 19 you had produced your first album because music is obviously in your blood. But talk about growing up.
So my mother was a trained pianist, and she played in the church. And for those who are musicians can understand this, she had a left hand on the piano that was mind-boggling. She would do the stride piano, and she could and she would play the old gospel stuff, and I would just be like, how are you doing that?
Yeah. Right.
But for me, it started when I was in the fourth grade. My mother had bought a guitar from the swap meet in Los Angeles, and my sister, and she never played it, but I would sneak in, I would get it, and I'd learn how to play. And my mother walked in and saw me, and I was playing chords, and I was playing music. I thought she was going to kill me, but she didn't. She turned around, called the Omaha School of Music, put me in music immediately. So I went through the entire course in a year, and just started one thing after another. I picked up bass, I picked up keys, I picked up all these different things all the way to the point of high school. And while I was in high school, I produced my first album. I did my first recording at 14 on bass, and it just snowballed from there. I knew early what I wanted to do, which was music.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's go back for a moment. So your mom, as it turns out, was very supportive of you.
Yes.
And so supportive is she says, let's get him into a system so somebody can help him other than me on this side.
Absolutely.
You weren't on the piano.
I was not on the piano, right? No, but I like the guitar. And guitar got the girls, so there you go.
Okay, let's talk about right. Let's talk about that as a young boy going to Yamaha. Talk about that experience.
Well, it was great. I still remember the diagrams, and I remember, in fact, I think I still have my book from that time, the D chord and C chord and all that, and it just came really easy.
What was it that influenced? I mean, what was it that experience that you knew you were in the right place? So when did that moment happen?
The escape, number one. There was some pressure growing up. In my household, my dad was gone a lot. I missed my dad. He was a truck driver and stuff. Right. So it was nice to have this escape and this creative outlet. And the creative outlet was everything. It trained my mind. It trained me how to manage emotions. It trained me how to do a lot of different things. And I also had incredible teachers in the public school. We had a great music program with Mr. Thatcher. And Mr. Thatcher actually taught me how to box. There's a story right there. So my first fight was in the 5th grade.
Wait a minute.
Okay, here we
go. Wait. He taught you how to fight.
Yeah.
So was that first fight in the ring, or was that first fight?
No, it was on the handball court. I just had these guys come up, and for some reason they decided they wanted to give me a black eye, and they did. And Mr. Thatcher was this small in stature Englishman, and back in Bell Gardens, and he saw I showed up. His bass player showed up with a shiner. He goes, Rick, he told the class to go ahead and practice your skills. Rick, I want to see you. Took me out in the hallway, and he was a former boxer. And so he taught me how to box,
so that you wouldn't get another black eye, or at least if you did, it'd be in the ring.
I never made it in the ring. I did martial arts and stuff, but we settled up a few scores after that, and everything was fine. You know,
right. It's amazing how a bully will respond to it.
Really, and just was really key for me. The teachers in my life. I mean, when I went to high school, there was Mr. Lodwick, and then my next door neighbor, Jim Edwards, was my last teacher in school, and he showed me fusion jazz, which is very difficult to play.
Oh, sure.
Very fast. I was playing upright bass. He really grew during those times under his watch. And
so as he was teaching you this style of jazz, is that a moment, or it had happened before, of where the idea of sitting down and jamming with other musicians live, to where everybody's, sure, you may play something that you know, but the next thing you know, you're creating music right there.
Yeah, it was conversation, and that's what jazz is. You have, if you look at jazz, they have something that's called the head, which is written notes, and you all play those notes, and then you get to this B section, which is just chords, and it's almost like, here's our subject. Now, what do you think about our subject? So we get to that. So you just solo, or you would play these things that come up, and you would just have a conversation with other musicians, and that's why I fell in love with that.
That's fantastic.
That's great.
Let me ask you: Can you look at that experience, that moment of time of where you're learning how to communicate with musicians and respond to each other with sounds? It's not written. You're just internally doing this. Did that skill set impact your other creative talents that you've developed over the years?
Everything like that. And during that time, I was also in a program for gifted children. So I had all this influence from the public school at that time that just took away the boundaries. Like, our education was a little different. Like, we would go see Cyrano de Bergerac, or we would see plays or things like that would cause our mind to expand. and become highly creative. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, it really opened up the possibility of think outside of the box. There is no box. Right. How do you want it to really be? What do you see? And go for it. And
some people who may be critical of that way of thinking may think, well, everybody needs absolute structure, but it's almost like you're helping develop with those skill sets critical thinking.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, to me, it's not like you're doing it from a commerce standpoint, but it still helps the brain work that way.
Agreed.
Because you're not solving a problem. Well, I guess you are in a way, but you are working off of what other people have created, and you've got to take it to its next step, right?
Right.
Its next sound.
Right. Well, bass players really have the biggest problem because usually during bass solos, everybody goes out and gets a drink. So, so I had to keep everybody engaged at all times. So, how can I show off here?
Yeah.
But one of the things that was also very critical is the ability to learn to take all that creativity and put it at the right time. So, like in my business now, it's a highly creative business. But equally, if not more important, is the business side of the business.
Right.
Because you want to be able to do that, and you also want to be able to pay your employees, pay your mortgage, pay all that stuff. So it's
a balance, right?
It's a balance, and as you get older, you realize that, okay, I'm going to have this time where I take all the boundaries off. We create, we think, we just, there's sky's the limit.
Right.
Then we rein it in. Okay, now how do we make that work in a budget?
Right.
So there's a hand-in-hand dance that goes on all the time.
Rick, are you finding that as the days go by, the years pass, and it's much quicker than they used to?
Talking heads. Days go by.
That's right.
Sorry, musician just popped out real quick.
That's right. There's a song for everything, isn't there? There's an answer everywhere. There's a note to fix that problem you got, buddy.
That's right.
That's right.
Absolutely.
But do you find yourself, even as years go by and we don't have, we're closer to the end than the beginning just because of time, but we still think more about tomorrow and next Christmas and the next Christmas and doing things now to put things in place to where when we're there, all the team members are there, everybody's excited about that process.
Yeah.
Do you find that with the more experience you've had through life and business and your production work, that is more important now than ever before?
You have to do. There's no other way to do that. If on the music score side, I really, before I even hit a note, most of the time, I already see how it's going to be.
Right.
Now, the journey is what I've got to work out, but I know what's in my mind, and most creative people usually do that. There are times when you go, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just going to see what happens. But the majority of the time, you do have a vision. And without a vision, you're just going to aimlessly wander. And you have to have that end goal. So you have to see tomorrow. You have to be able to lead people by saying, this is what tomorrow's going to look like. Would you like to go?
Right.
That's the key to being a good leader as well.
Has your ability to do that progressed over time?
Sure.
Okay, so it wasn't something that you came out of music school or had a great epiphany when you're 20s to where you were a master at that.
No. Yeah. I mean, but look, I think people have personalities. I think you have the A type and all that stuff.
Right.
And, I tend to lean toward the A type. But what is key is the maturity and learning from other people. For example, like in our business, our Templegate Films business, I knew there were things I did not know. And there are things that I did not know I need to know that I don't know.
Right.
And so
you didn't know what to ask.
I didn't even know what to ask, because most of the time I'm on one side of the desk, but now I'm on the other side of the desk.
Right.
So the key for us immediately was to find somebody that did know that, or find other people that did know that. So I immediately just started finding the people that that had the keys for us to, for example, get the film done.
Right.
And, get it to where it's at now, and how to be able to finish it and distribute it and sell it and make money and all that other stuff.
So it's more than just knowing a guy. It's knowing the right guy. Well,
sure.
The right human.
Yeah.
That's got the right temperament, the right mental creativity to mesh with this team for this particular
and the
project.
Discipline.
Right.
For example, and I don't want to get ahead of us, but I mean, even like the guy that's directing our film, Jeff Deverett, who is also going to be our distributor, it was key for us because one of the things that was a go for me was when he said, Rick, my number one goal is to protect our investors. I said, that's my guy right there. Because to me, that's everything. That's the business side.
And that's his background?
He's a lawyer. He's a director. He teaches at San Diego State. He's got all these pedigrees. Right. But until I really spent some time with him, listened to his heart, saw, and he had the results that I want, that's the guy. But to me, when people put their faith in you, they put their money in you, they back you, they say, okay, we're going to take a chance on you. I want to know that we have done everything we possibly can to protect everything. So that's an important thing, right? From a deliverable standpoint, things that, we want to see that in place to make that happen. Right, but that's key to leadership, to also always protect everything that, okay, Rick, we're going to put you in a leadership position. How are you gonna take care and manage? Right. And so the key to good management is not knowing everything, but knowing people who do know everything. That's right. And then putting them in the right place. Build that team and let it empower from that standpoint. Exactly. I love that. So that's I think we all can grab hold of that idea. We may not have all the people that we want. We may have to continue to look, right? Yeah. It's a never-ending journey, isn't it? Never-ending, and it's always developing, and it's organic and wonderful. And that's the beauty of life, It's just what are these new connections, and how can we work together to make something? So in the music world, which you have a long pedigree, a long history of working in TV and movies and doing lots of creative things, with some pretty impressive names, right? Names that everybody would recognize. Talk about that early stage as you begin to go into that world and that business acronym. How did that evolve for you? Because the things that you're sharing now sounds like wisdom that's happened over a period of time. Oh, yeah. Right? I didn't pop out of the womb with this, I promise you. I was a moron. Still kind of a moron if you ask my family, but they're not here. That's right. Well, it's all about the pie, right? So you just got a little cinnamon. You don't have, the whole thing's not cinnamon. That's right. That's right. So let's talk about that, because there are so many creative people in the Carolinas. Yeah, I got to tell you, and I know the Carolinas are now home for you. North Carolina is home. Welcome to the neighborhood. Love it here. I know that your life will be better because of that, and I really believe that. I agree. Because people here care. Sometimes we're real busy. We may not care every moment by saying it, but we do. And we're there for people when they need it. And I think that's what's important. And so for those of us who have a gift in doing whatever it may be, a bricklayer, it doesn't matter. I think our goal in this life is to take it and to make it grow and to nurture it and learn. And can you play better? Can you do this stronger? Can you do it better? And so that's the only thing that I can say that I did, is work hard to get that gift to grow. Now, that's the easy part. The hardest part was developing the character to manage the gifting that you've been given. And that is, I think, has been the hardest thing in transition from music to film to even life, and marriage and relationships and friendships, is getting to a point where you manage your emotions, you mature your thoughts. And that took me a long time, I'll be honest with you. Through a big stick and beating myself over the head. Stop it. I mean, really, a lot of it comes down to putting a choke chain on yourself and just saying, nope, you can't do that. Right. And I think what happens with a lot of us highly creative people, you guys, me, other people that are watching, is we get so involved in the gift that we have that we are not usable because our character hasn't been developed. Right. And we see that a lot. We see that a lot even in some of the stars that have these incredible gifts, but they die early because they never managed their character. They never grew up. They're still 12 and 13-year-olds emotionally, and they never grew up.
So I think those are situations that we all can look from afar and see that and say, oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
We feel bad about that. But it seems like, I don't know that it happens more than it used to. I just think we have instant access to information.
We sure do.
So it's there all the time.
Yeah.
So it's not, if a celebrity is, on drug, you don't even hear about drug overdoses anymore. It's got to be something prety dramatic for that to even make news anymore. Right. Because it's just such commonplace.
Agreed.
So as we go through life, as you've gone through your journey through life in making these different disciplines grow, helping them grow.
With people helping me do that.
So that's what I wanted to ask. You didn't do it by yourself?
No.
Right.
No, I didn't. It came through my spouse. It came through friends. It came through pastoral oversight that would look at me and just be gobsmacked at some of the things I would say or do. Right. And I'd have to look back at that and go, wow, was I in my right mind at that time? So I think it came through making the mistakes, realizing that the gift or the ability that I have is really separate. It's not me. Right. My job is to grow as a person and maintain that gift. I'm not that gift.
Well, let me ask you this then, because you just said that you looked at, you let yourself at a moment in time, was I in my right mind? Mm-hmm. So in that process of growth, though, the mind that we have at that moment is our right mind at that moment.
Sure.
Whether it's the right choices, it is what we have at that very moment.
Sure.
And you're saying that the influences that you were having in your life, you had some people that were saying, hey, Rick, you could tweak this a little bit. Or it may have been more
forceful.
It may have been more
Use this bat, Rick. This will help you a lot.
Right. It could have been real heavy instruction or very mild.
Right.
But most mentors or people that inspire us, they gently help us through the journey because it's difficult to change, right?
Yeah, it's very difficult. And what I've learned through mentoring others, that really when you get to the 35, and this is what I was told, when you get to 35, it gets tougher and tougher and tougher because you're so ingrained with those that if you haven't programmed, and it's not that you've made all your changes by 35. It's the ability to change by 35. Have you developed that ability to change? And if you haven't, you can, but it gets harder and harder and harder as we get older. Right. And so I think, the people that helped me through some difficult times and through things that my thinking was wrong, and they spent lovingly, but directly spoke into my life because I had become this person that I didn't really want to become, and they were able to crack through that. In fact, there's a counseling technique that says, look, if there's somebody that's in a dark room and they're crazy and they're losing their mind, don't go in the room. Stay in the door and say, this is the way out. So that's what they did. They stayed in this, said, Rick, come over here, see the light, come this way. Right. And that really helped me in a lot of decisions, even with, with business and all that kind of stuff. So, I wish I would have learned that sooner, but that wasn't my path. I had to go through things to get to this point.
Don't you think, Rick, or do you think, I don't want to presume, but I would imagine that because of that journey and because of those incremental victories that you had, because you had to have them, right?
Yeah.
That it gives you the ability to have this conversation now.
Yeah.
And your empathy for other young creators
big time.
Is far more advanced than it would have been if you had not had those experiences.
You can't speak to somebody who's going through something if you haven't gone through those.
Right.
And so, I've been through those and had enough disappointment, enough heartache, enough all of that to say, I'm glad that was a no. I wasn't ready for that at that time. I needed to develop to where I am now. And then next year I'll be in a different development stage. Right. And I think we're all like that. Right. It's all just choices. Do we choose to mature? Do we choose to grow up? Or do we choose to do the same thing over and over and expect different results?
So where are you now?
Beating myself in the head with a hammer is where I'm at. I am content and blessed and happy and I haven't been this happy in years. Right. And I think it's just a matter of going through the process, having enough no's and enough ups and downs to go, I've been down this road. I know what to expect. It's all good, and it's going to turn out okay. And I'm that confident in it.
Yeah.
So
I'm so happy to hear that, because I think that's good inspiration for all of us, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And everybody's on the journey. Everybody's on the road. You know, I was looking at your production website, and I see that you've recently brought on a new writer.
Yeah.
And it got my attention because of his veteran background.
Oh, yeah.
And his work history is quite impressive. Talk about him for a moment, and why was he someone that you said, I really like him. I think he'd be a great asset for us.
Steve, we love Steve. Steve, we brought on. We have our head writer is Mark Rickerby. He's a principal in the business,
right.
And Steve came under Mark. So everything that Steve would do goes through Mark, and they write everything, and then we look at it after Mark is done. The thing about Steve is Steve has served our country. And I love our veterans. I mean, I didn't serve, but I would do anything in the world for a veteran, because they put their life on the line. They said goodbye to their family. They did things that I could never and will unfortunately never do in defense of this country. And I love Steve's work. Steve is highly creative, and he's the biggest 68-year-old go-getter I've ever seen in my. He'll outdo me, which is very difficult. He will outdo me, and for getting things done. Rick, I heard you were talking about this story the other day. Yeah, I'm really thinking that we should look at that down the road. He'll show up a week later with most of the script written. I mean,
so not just prolific. A treatment, but an actual.
yeah. Like I actually have a dialogue here on a script. Not a shooting script, but a script.
Of course.
And he's amazing. So we're looking forward. He hasn't done any work on Wilkes, because that happened before he came on.
Right.
But he inspired our next film down the road, that once we finish Wilkes, we have this next one that we're moving on to, and he's involved with that.
Nice.
He's a good guy.
Steve Alexander, right?
Still serves in the military. Still he does things that he told me about that I can't talk about, because I have to kill all of you.
Right.
But I like you guys, and you probably kill me.
Right.
But he's a great guy, and loves our country.
You said something that I think is interesting. You said he's a very aggressive person at 68 years old, and I've interviewed several people that are in their 70s who are truly leaders in their industry now, and they're as energetic, more so.
Oh yeah.
Than many of their younger cohorts.
Right.
And the wisdom that they have, or just the experience. Some people, when you say wisdom, that's hard to, quantitate what that actually is. Some people are like, well, what is wisdom?
Yeah.
But just the know-how.
Yeah.
Because of years, just like yourself. You're here now. We're talking about these experiences in life of where you were doing great things, but maybe you made choices that you figured out, well, there's a better way to do that, and then life became better. And that came from those years of experience. So when you're working with people that have been around a while, that makes it a richer experience, right?
Big time. And you have a lot of those people here. I mean, I am so surprised here in Wilkes County what is here. I still am shocked at the wisdom, the knowledge, the success that's here is incredible.
Well, Wilkes County and the Carolinas in general, we just have an abundance of highly talented, creative people.
Shocked. Yeah.
And for the most part, very modest people who modest from the standpoint of, we're super creative and we're great, but to be a great musician in North Carolina, or in this western part of North Carolina, or in Myrtle Beach, it's not a rare thing.
No, it's not. You have to give me a little grace, because in LA is a bubble.
Yeah.
And you think everything circles around that bubble. Like, how many people from LA does it take to screw in a light bulb? One. They stand and the world revolves around them. So, that's kind of unfortunately was my mentality, even though I had been all over the world. The raw talent here in the Carolinas is Brett, it's just shocking what's here. I actually I love country music now because I'm hearing it done right, and it's wonderful, beautiful.
It does,
and I can hear it with my kids, which I really like. You know, a lot of music I can't.
You live in Charlotte now, right?
I do live in Charlotte.
Charlotte is a wonderful community. You're right. The Carolinas are great. So you're in a great city in Charlotte.
Beautiful city. Love Charlotte. But I'm really considering, especially Wilkes County, my second home. My wife and I, we even talked about buying a second home up here. Yeah, because when you, at the end of your life, these are the things that will run through your mind that will matter. Did I, not what's in my bank,
right?
But did I do things that mattered? Did I leave a legacy, And so you have to slow down to create things that last.
Right.
Things that last take time.
Right.
And so if you microwave everything, it's not going to last. No. And so I really appreciate that here. It runs at a good pace for me. I like the pace. I redline a lot. And so it's nice to... Like a lot of times when I'll come here after church, I'll drive through Miller's Creek and pass, in Parsonsville, or I'll do Brushy Mountain, or I'll do different things like that, especially during the fall. I mean, those who follow my Facebook page.
I've seen your pictures.
I'm a fall freak, and I'm just like, look at this. It's a leaf. It's beautiful.
I saw, as a matter of fact, as I was pulling some material together for our visit
that wasn't
today,
me. They got their socks back.
Well,
sorry.
Well, we have extra socks. So
good.
It's all good. We prepared. But I noticed on one of your posts, and I knew you. I saw these big fall pictures, and I think I giggled a little bit inside. I mean, it wasn't a loud giggle. Maybe I just smiled a little bit.
She did. Hey, honey, look at this guy.
I don't know how much I giggle anymore, but I smiled inside.
There you go.
Because I saw it's like this one. It says it's a 1 minute read, right?
Yeah.
And you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 big pictures.
Yeah.
I was like, way to go, Rick. I love that. Very visual presentation.
I'm a visual guy. I can't help it. Yep, absolutely. That's why a smart guy hires a writer. His name, and so that's why we picked a partner that would write words. Like, what are words and how do they? I can't tell how many times I have to go back and correct my spelling. I'm like, okay, I'm still in the first grade here. So yeah.
But that's okay. That's okay. I won't say it. Well, yeah, I will.
Yeah, say it.
So when I always have notes.
Yeah,
notes.
I am shocked. Yeah.
I don't have notes on specific questions because my conversation with whoever's there, here in this room, or if we're on location, is I want to get to know you.
Yeah,
I want us to get to know each other and form maybe friendships.
Setup. It's a setup, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so I just copy and paste from your website, right? So I hit print because after printing the 48 pictures on some of these things, I was like, that's enough pictures.
And they're in color too. I'm impressed.
I know it's I have a good printer. And so I took your bio, which, as you see, the way I do I look at bios and I highlight little things that I find interesting. Like, you had your first album when you were a young kid, and then you did this and you did that. So I just highlight a few things, and then we have a conversation.
Sure.
About it. So anyway, I put this in, and I have a program called Grammarly.
Oh, no.
And it automatically looks at everything.
Redline everything.
No, not everything. Okay. There were only 14. But they were simple things, simple things.
Yeah.
And
that. Mark, could you help me, please? I'm talking to our writer. Mark's going, Rick, I told you look like a moron.
No,
could you help me?
I don't think that's the case.
Oh, I know. It's funny.
I mean, maybe it used to be, but now, because I had the same thing. I knew exactly what you were saying. So did Grammarly, and it was a then, then a then, or whatever. It's simple stuff. And I deal with this as well.
Sure.
But here's the point, and I believe this is absolutely true. Now, my grammar and correctness friends and editors would completely disagree. But in the large scope, it's the story that matters.
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
I agree.
Whether you spelled it exactly the right way, if I understand, we can fix that.
Sure.
That's not a problem.
Sure.
But being able to be a storyteller.
That's everything.
Being able to get your ideas out. So let's talk about the Wilkes County Line, the story. There's a poster behind you. I hope the camera can pick that up. And product placement's good, as you know. Was it Wilkes County Line? Oh, look at that. Look at
that. That's our newest one right there. There it is, right there.
There it is.
There it is.
We've got the mugs.
That's on the side of our sheriff's car, by the way.
This one.
Yeah, that
right?
one.
That's it. I saw your post about that.
Yeah.
And then Wilkes County Line back here
That's
as well. So you've got it everywhere. And Temple Gate Films, which is your production
That's our company.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about, take it from the beginning, if you will, just that drive, how this come to you, pulling the story together, and what's it like to actually make a film? I think that might be interesting to folk as well,
Sure.
is that journey. We've talked about a few of the disciplines, but
Sure.
let's hone in on this particular project.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you a high level of the story because I don't want to release the whole story.
No.
But a few of the important things when writing the film, it was important not only just to reach maybe race fans or things like that, but how do we expand this story into something that's nation and worldwide? What would make people look at Wilkes County and be interested in Wilkes County?
Yeah.
And right away for me, the most important thing, believe it or not, was the scenery. I mean, I'm a big nature fan, and I loved the two-laners. I loved driving. I love being careful. Oh, there's a.
Right.
Thank you to the police officer, by the way, who didn't pull me over this morning. Thank you. But everywhere we go, there's all these things and niches in the county that were just amazing to me as an outsider that caught my attention. And so I'm thinking, well, how do we tell people about the beauty of this area and suck them into the story? So we developed a story around the racetrack, because the racetrack was the main driver. The fact that here's this beautiful racetrack getting ready, or at that time, they weren't sure whether it was going to open or not, because there was just this big push. Terry Parsons and her crew had, "We want you back," everywhere. I think I drove by and accidentally had a sticker on my head. I'm like, what is this? Oh, "We want you back." I mean, it was everywhere. Right. She's brilliant at that. And had this real drive to get the racetrack open. And she shared some of the struggles that she was going through later. But it was, how do I tie this into a story? And then what do I like about this? So immediately, I had to take our time back to early 1960s. So we set the story happens in the 1960s because I wanted to run moonshine, not personally, but I wanted in the story, you know, and so I had to back it up when it was really illegal, which was early 60s.
Sure,
and there was still some running going on. And so that was a no-brainer. And so we picked that. And then the more that I spoke with Terry, I found out how the access to automobiles from that time here is abundant, which is great for a filmmaker because it's great on the cost. And then we had to develop, well, what would suck people into the story that's just a good story, whether we wrap it in the racetrack or no matter what we wrap it in, it's a good story that people would want to see.
So you're focusing on the area as well.
Area was huge, yeah.
But it's a period piece from the 60s, and you're focusing on the beauty of the area, the allure of the cars, the racing.
Yeah, so I'll tell you a little bit. I'll tell you the story is about, in this fictional story, this is not the History Channel. In this fictional story, the racetrack is owned by a husband and wife. And the husband is trying to keep the track open, and he's running moonshine at night. Only a few people know that he runs moonshine at night. And I'm trying to gauge how much I want to let out.
No. You've set the stage. We get the idea. Don't give too much.
No, I don't. I'll give you a little bit because the story is really on, from after the first 10 minutes on, that's the real story. But the first couple minutes, something happens. Which I can't tell. And then the sons start stepping in to help this cause. But the problem is that one of the sons is a sheriff, and the other son decides to run moonshine.
Right.
And they're
brothers.
And they're brothers. And
Right.
so one's chasing the other a lot and had no idea that was his brother.
Oh,
and that's
my God.
all I'm going to let out right now.
Okay.
We do have, we've written in some of the local historical characters in
Right.
here. Some we had in, some we took out, some we're adding in. So we're still in that process of, bringing in some of the name recognition,
Sure.
to honor Wilkes County. And
so that's a little bit of the tease at the beginning. So
Yeah.
something that you've not told anyone else ever before, just one little thing. Look, Rick, nothing big, but just something that happens midway that whenever, the words were written on paper, you felt, oh, that's just perfect.
all of it, but because I love the film.
But clearly you don't want to tell us all of it right now. But one that was.
I'll tell you one that's not deep, but it's funny because I love to laugh.
Yeah.
And having Scottish blood in me, we had to put a Scotsman in the film.
Of course.
And what made it funny was, okay, I'm still a child in my heart, so passing gas still makes me laugh. It just makes me laugh. I'm a guy.
Right.
And it makes me laugh. And there's a scene in there that involves that with the Scotsman. And it was funny. And then we found a local actor to play the Scotsman.
Who could pass gas?
I don't know if he could pass gas. We'll probably sit there with one of those machines
Sound
or whatever.
effect, right.
And I laughed so hard that I thought I was going to choke when he was acting this out. And I mean, I'm crying. I had to get off the Zoom call. He immediately won my heart. He's in.
Right.
He's not Scottish. He just had the perfect accent and his facial features. It's the funniest scene that I could have ever imagined. And I've seen a lot of scenes. This is funny.
He's not a Scotsman, but he plays one in Wilkes County Line.
One in Wilkes County Line. And it's, I mean,
right.
that, a lot of times you want to have scenes in there that will make YouTube.
Of course.
You got to see this. It's so funny. And this is going to be one of them.
Right.
It's hilarious. And the thing about it, and here's the thing about that's important on the marketing side, is we're going to do two versions of the film. One version will have some swearing, some natural, language. And then some of those scenes we'll reshoot, and we're going to release a Christian film of that, because version of that, because there's no sex in the film. I wouldn't shoot a film that I could not watch with my daughter. I'll never do that. And we all three feel the same way. We are not going to do a film that compromises who we are.
Right.
And we want to represent our investors in the best light possible. So we don't want to tie them into something that they're sitting there watching going, oh, here comes this scene.
Right.
We don't want to do that. So
So when you say you're going to release for the Christian market, you mean that there's two versions, one with a few words that might make some people uncomfortable, the other one basically the same thing without those words in.
Without the words.
Right.
Yeah, that's it.
So you're going to have two versions. One for the mass market, which will be the expressive words that likely very much were used. I'm sure they were
absolutely.
used. They're used now.
It's life, yeah.
That's right. And then there'll be a version that won't have those words. But doesn't that also harken back to the time itself? Because during that time of the 60s, even before that, when folks were running moonshine, you had that conflict that was there.
That's true.
You had really good folk in the community, and because of the need of survival, taking care of families, they were doing this thing that other family members may not approve of.
Great setup. So here is the theme of the movie, the overriding theme. Okay, and this was developed by Jeff, our director, which was why we love him.
Right.
Can bad money do good things? That's the question. And so it's this moral dilemma of Robin Hood,
right?
Basically, can you take good money and do bad things? Of course you can. Can you take bad money and do good things? Of course you can. But does it make it right? And that's the question that we're going to set up for the film.
So there's a moral dilemma.
Always.
So you've got that. So at the end, when people are walking out, they're like, I like
was
that.
Was that right? Or was that, but did it justify the means? And
yeah. What do you think?
Absolutely. And they'll be laughing while they're doing it. It's very funny.
Yeah. Okay. So absolutely you think it does justify the means, or you were just...
I'm not going to tell you. That's up to you and the viewer.
Yeah. Of course. So that's a good...
Our job is to show you a good story and make you think, and entertain you.
Right.
And the other part of that job is to make a profit. Right. And that's what we want to do too.
Okay, so now as you're going through the process, you're getting scripting down, you're casting now, you're pulling your crew together, and from all aspects of everything, right? Mm-hmm. So that's part of the business. So
part of the business. Yep.
Walk us through how that works, and even I assume you get partners involved or people invest. How does that work? And because a lot of people might be interested in that, knowing how that works, and we always see. Proposals and people who are making projects, because we know a lot of folks in this world, and there's always the back end. People talk about the back end, and I get people who say that all the time. Well, you must make a lot of money off the show, and the back end must be great. Well, it should be
right.
But it's truly more a passion and love for our states. But tell me how that works from a filmmaker's standpoint.
Well, on the business side, and this is really, the creative side is the easiest side. I have a saying that was given to me by a friend of mine that I absolutely love, that everybody wants to make a baby, but we don't want to talk about paying for college.
Oh, right.
So the business side is paying for college, because that's a reality. So what we've done is we put the business side first. The creative side is the easiest part. We can do that all day long. But the business side is, how do we do this? Create a product that people want to see and pay for.
Right.
And how do we satisfy our investors? How do we satisfy our company? Because our company put the initial, right now we have about $200,000 into the film, into this film. And we're always first in, last out, which means we will put the first monies in. Everybody else that is willing, believes in the project, believes in the potential, wants to put their product in it, whatever, they will get their money back before we do.
Right.
So they're first in. So the first thing we do is we put that together. We look at, what does the state have as far as tax rebates? North Carolina has, we're going to qualify for about 20%, which means that all the dimes or all the money that we spend here, we will get 20% of that back from the state as an incentive. And that money is treated as income.
So let's stop for 1 second. That's an incentive for your production company to actually work with people, your crew people within North Carolina.
That's correct.
Okay, so that's an important part.
It's an important part for us because obviously we're not 20th Century Fox. We would just pay for it ourselves and say, thank you, we're going to do it, we're taking this on. But we, being independent, we need help.
Sure.
And so we find people that would, and to incentivize that, we put them before us with this tax rebate coming in and saying this is also going to be a payment back for your investment to get us back to zero.
Right.
And then at past zero, then we all start profit, participation.
Right.
So.
All right. So
we do that. We find like investors, and we still, on Wilkes County Line, we still have a gap that we're still looking for to fill. And once that's filled, our goal is to start shooting in March. We've already done some preliminary shooting here because I wanted the fall. Right. And our company paid for that and paid for all the shooting, and we bought the car. Right. We own a car, so never thought that would happen, but we own a car now. Right.
Well, what is it?
It is a 1961 police car.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's got stickers and it's got a bubble and it drives and the whole thing. And we bought it from a guy named Brett Harris, who is the Barney. He does his Barney impersonation. Sure. We love him. We're gonna put him in the film. He's perfect. We love him. He's got that look. And we bought it from him, and because he was going to sell it, and we're like, how hard it is to find these cars. I called my partner and said, we need to buy this, if we're going to use it. So we bought it, and now it's here stored in Wilkes at Tom Bartlett's house. And hopefully we'll be in the Christmas parade with it.
Yeah, so that's fantastic. So let me ask you this while you're there. So you're talking about So an acquisition, but this is something I can tell that you're really into, right?
I'm only going to be into what I'm into, which means I'm only going to spend my time, my money, my heart, my soul, put everything out into what I'm into, and I'm really into that.
Is that because you've just been doing this for a long time, and now you're like, look, if I don't like it, I'm not doing it.
Right. It's that. I have to believe in it. In other words, I have to set across from investors and say, I believe in this project this much.
Right.
We're willing to put our money, our hard work, and everything that we have into this to make it the best we can.
So when you make that presentation, how do people respond?
Okay, so this is where you get the tough skin. So you'll have 100 no's.
Right.
Or in the film business, you'll have 100 asks, no responses.
Right.
All of a sudden, it's crickets. You don't hear from the people anymore. And then you'll have people that agree and believe and see in the project, which we have. We've been blessed with a couple here locally, well-known people who love the project and are involved financially. And so we're real excited about that. They love the project. And so that was
Do you
helpful.
find is it subject driven? I would there again, as you have said, you get in projects that you like. So do you find that?
I think it's a good question. I think it's probably 20-25% of that. But it's the 75% of like, okay, this is a business.
Right.
And so that's when I take off all my funny hats and I put on, now we got to crunch numbers and can we make this viable? Mm-hmm. And so that's why even with Jeff's, our director's approach, we're going to do 3 veins of distribution, which I love his, he's really mitigated a lot of the risk out because film investing is a risky business.
So what's Jeff's background?
Jeff's background is he's got 4 films on Netflix right now. He was involved in distribution, which is huge. That's everything.
Sure.
Again, anybody can make a film. Anybody can make, but can you get it out there?
That's right.
Can you get it
who's going to
sold?
see it?
Who's going to see it? Is anybody going to see
it?
And so that's why we picked him. So Jeff has this whole idea that we came up with that I absolutely love, and it's going to give us our best possible way to make a profit and get as many eyeballs on that as possible.
Wow.
So that's why we put that in first.
So that's the business side.
That's the business side.
That's the business side. Now let's talk about the next step. So now all is good. We're ready to shoot, right?
Okay.
So you're looking at that's going to hopefully your proposed launch date is when again?
Well, we're hoping to shoot
right
in March.
March of 23.
We're going to shoot in March of 23. Yeah. So it would be about a 23 to 25 day shoot.
Okay.
And once we hit our goal, then everything goes out. So which means that we send all the ships out to all 4 corners of the world. We get casting going for the parts that have not been secured.
Right.
We immediately hook up with Terry here, who is a one-stop shop. Thank God for filmmakers.
So when you met Terry for the first time, because I met Terry and we talked and I just find her to be exactly as you said, just a wealth of. A lot of people know a lot of, they know a little about a lot, but she knows a lot about a lot. And that's the difference, right, in the quality of that relationship. So when you first presented, because this means something, I think, to folks too, when you first presented to her this idea, what was that meeting like?
Was unbelievable. She was on board 1,000%, has facilitated more than I can even think or imagine. I've never met a film commissioner that's been that involved in a project where she believed in it. How do we make this happen? How do we reach people? How do we contact them and see if they'd be interested? How do we do that? She has a limit that she will not cross. Obviously she's very, and this is what I appreciate about her. She's in her lane. You should do this or think about this. But you're going to do that.
Right.
This is what I'm going to provide. And she was very clear about that. And I love that about her. What she has done is, and the county for what they provide for filmmakers is unbelievable. I don't know why we're not here shooting more films other than my company. Should be many more companies here.
So you're talking about the natural resources.
Natural resources, places, the location scouting, the emergency, all the county resources that are available to filmmakers. This is the place to shoot. And it's got everything here. It's got beaches, it's got mountains, it's got everything.
Right.
And so that's why we would, at that point, probably our director and probably Tennille and most likely Mark and myself, we'd get in a car and she'd read through the script. She says, hey, here's some possibilities. We look at those places. Nope.
Right.
So we start doing, and then she goes to work and does an amazing amount of heavy lifting.
So has all the scouting been done?
No.
Okay.
No.
Right.
No, there's a couple things that we're looking at. We'll do that probably the first of the year. And then what else plays into that is there'll be some companies that will come on for product placement.
Right.
They will give money to put their product in the film.
So when you say product placement, you're talking about doing exactly this, right?
Yeah.
But
they will pay to have their product in the film, and and it's not an investment. It's this is a placement.
Right.
So, yeah, and so some companies may say, can you shoot at our company so we can see our logo in the background?
Sure.
And sure, this is what the cost would be for to get our crew there and stuff like that. And so those are some of the things that are up in the air as well.
So it's going to, that'll be Where's Waldo opportunity for folks who know this story now.
Yeah.
And so if you know this is coming, then be on the lookout for those things.
Here's the beautiful thing about that, and this is on the business side. So a company, for example, in San Diego, people still go to Miramar.
Right.
Where did they shoot Top Gun? I want to see where they shot Top Gun.
Right.
That's financial dollars into San Diego. And that's what I'm hoping on here, that people go, well, this is the booth that X and X was at when they talked about X, that.
Yeah.
And I want to set there. And so it helps the local economy as well.
Absolutely.
Heads and Beds, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, I never will forget. Years ago, I interviewed Jay Raffaldini, who his family built Raffaldini Vineyards, and we're the scene is set. Tim, you weren't with us at that time, so this is years ago, maybe 12 years ago, and and so there's bottles of their wine, put on the side tables and that.
Of course.
And this is what I got phone calls on. So Jay drinks Tab, T-A-B, and I didn't even know they still made Tab.
I didn't either.
He sits there the whole interview. He doesn't touch his wine. He's drinking Tab, and you say, and it's right in the shot.
Wow.
The wine bottle and the glass was set up to where, because that was showing up. But I was like, that is so, and I wasn't paying attention because I was doing my job.
Yeah.
And so it aired. And I literally got called. I said, how'd you get Tab to do product placement? I said, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
He said, well, it's there 100% of the time. He physically picks it up 8 times.
They're counting?
So
oh, my goodness.
It was there. Well, it was an agency friend in Charlotte. And I was like, well, they didn't. And they said, well, they should have.
They should have. I agree. What a great, product placement.
And I think because, Folgers, we're used to seeing Folgers at Hallmark. But to see that, Tab, once again, he has it flown in.
Oh, yeah.
Or had it flown in from New York. And I just thought that was incredible. So you're going to be doing a bit of that.
Well, that's the beautiful thing. Even though we're back in the 60s, it doesn't matter. No. You don't have to have had your company at that time.
No.
And it's the beautiful thing of product placement is you have a commercial for 10, 20, 30 years that plays over and over and over.
So that's the idea of that. All right, I get that.
And we love that. That's the fun business, and it's fun.
That is.
How do we do that to where it's not like, hey, look, how do we do that? Where it's subtle.
Sure. Sure. So. Yeah, we deal with that, when we're shooting sometimes. And some things we don't want to show, and some things not. It's like artwork. Artwork it was a strange thing that, not strange, but TV folks were really That's kind of like the broadcasters may say, be careful when you're filming in the rooms and you see artwork, because you don't have rights to show all that artwork.
Yeah.
And now it's books, so you see a lot of books where it's turned around, so that's why you don't see the spine anymore.
That's right.
In your national shows. And so we're very mindful of that, unless it's our book, of course.
Of course.
You want to show that, right?
Did I just do that? No, you didn't say that.
Well, that's a fun part of it. So people are out, we're getting an idea of how, we got to come up with a concept, you got to get scripting, you've got to do scouting and thinking about the business aspect of it and the fun thing of product placement. And then what happens after that? So
we shoot it, and then the real work happens. So after everything is in the can,
right,
and then we start our editing process, and our editing process is a long process because you have to build a story, and it's key to be able to build the story. The story is really built in editing,
right.
And so does the idea flow,
right?
And once all the editing's done, the VO is done. Any time we have to go back and maybe reshoot a scene, I hope we don't have to,
right?
But sometimes it happens. Once all that's done, you have what's called a locked picture. It's locked. Everybody signed off on it. Looks good, sounds good. Then it goes to the most important thing, the composer.
Right. I assumed.
Is my arm breaking yet?
Well, I assumed with 4 pages of credits, you were going to say something like that.
So, which is funny because the whole reason. So, my company was formed during COVID because I called Mark, who is in the business, and I called Tennille, who's in the business, but she's also a professor at a college. But they're my closest friends who I would give my PIN number to my bank account. Right. I mean, that's really why I chose them, is because I love them and trust them. We built this company, and the reason why we built this company is I don't want to have to go put in for composer jobs anymore.
Right.
That job is filled now. Oh, by the owner, by the way. Right. I'm gonna, we're going to make films and I'll score them because I love to do the music, and so this way. Mark likes to write.
I see.
And so we love to do this stuff.
You're banking tomorrows. I'd say.
There you go. And that's all what life is. And so it goes to the composer, and then there's a final mix where they mix the music and dialogue and all that stuff. And then after that, it goes to, we'll have private screenings to get feedback from audiences. Do you like it? How did it feel? Did everything feel okay? Did you get lost anywhere?
Right.
And then if everything looks good at that point, then it starts going out and starts working the market, and that's when we're like, okay, now we're wanting to start creating dollars at that point.
Okay, so we don't have to talk about all the points because I know for the things that happen in that edit stage, because that's a very long list of things that happen. I think you'd give a nice overlook of that. But now that you're set, the screenings go well, and you're ready to start. You're ready to start pitching it. What's that process like?
So we've already started pitching it. Once I'll tell you when the pitch starts. The pitch starts when I call the director and say, hey, guess what? We're fully funded. The pitch starts at that point. We haven't even shot it. Doesn't matter. He will go out. He'll go to Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, HBO, all of them.
Right.
And because this is a streaming, we do not want to go into theaters.
Right.
We don't think that theaters for an independent is a viable option, especially post-COVID.
Right.
We want to get to where we're going to get paid. And so then we start pitching. And hopefully multiple offers will come in. We'll also go to some of the Christian streamers, PureFlix, TBN, different things like that. Is this something you're interested in? Look at the Christian version. Also, there's a curriculum that's involved, which our Pastor Tom will write. There's a teaching curriculum.
Okay, for that side of it.
Absolutely. So if you want to show this in your church and you want to do this, there's an option as well. So we're looking at every option possible. Once that's sold, then we enter into contracts and it goes out and sells, and
that's it.
That's it.
Wow.
So the baby's off and they're married, and and at that point, we're and then promotion is heavy at that point. All promotion.
So what happens from a promotional standpoint? Because once let's say you do a deal with Netflix or whomever it might be, and now the deal is done, right? So you know where it's going, right?
Sure.
It's not even completely finished yet, but you know where it's going.
Yeah.
So what type of promotions do you have to do at that point?
You
then?
put print, radio, every which way you possibly can. And that's really in Jeff's department.
Right.
He has a whole promotion team that will send that out and make people aware. It'll go to Variety. It'll go to different magazines.
Right.
People will become aware of that. And even a lot of people do think that. They think, okay, if you land a Netflix or HBO deal, why would you promote? They're going to promote it. That's not the case. Like, I'm so old, and I remember back when I was doing the music for record companies. I was doing a lot of R&B at that time in downtown LA. I mean, in South Central LA. I was doing rap and all this other stuff back in the day. And we would finish a record, and it would go to the record company. We would also hire what's called independent promotion men, which we wouldn't rely on the record company to promote it. We would send out our own team to go out and promote it as well. So we don't have all our eggs in one basket. It's the same with film. You send out independent promotion people. We don't rely on the we don't rely on the streamer.
So that's definitely a part of your machine.
Yeah, absolutely.
That you make sure that happens.
We have there's a little over a tenth of our budget is promotion.
Right.
I mean, it's big.
Right.
So
you have to treat it like it's a hard cost, and it's just part of it.
Yeah.
It's like filming. You've got to do that.
Yeah.
So,
you gotta let people know there's a film that you need to watch, or you're a loser.
Right.
So I mean, it's just like that. If you have seen this, you're a loser. So
Right. Well, okay.
But the thing about, I do want to say this real quick. Yep. The thing I like about the film is it has such a broad range of age, and I mean, you've got your NASCAR people, you've got your people that love moonshine, you've got your people that love to come and see trees and leaves. There's the age range is broad. What is
it? So when you say broad, what are we talking about?
Oh, 18 on up. I mean, anybody loves a good story. Plus, the main people, they're 18 to 20, 22, and they're the ones you'll see mostly. And then the characters are older.
Right.
They're over in the hills doing things that you'll see in the film.
Yep.
And, all that good stuff.
I understand what those things might be. So.
Not you.
Well, I know a bit of history. So
there you go. Good way out. That was good.
I know a bit of history. Rick, this has been exciting. My goodness.
Thank you. I'm excited. This is a great interview. I'm excited about the film.
Well, it's wonderful to have you in the Carolinas now, to have your background, to have, thank goodness you got all your mistakes out of your way, in California.
If only that were true.
Yeah. But you know what? It's the journey. Right?
It's the journey.
It's the journey.
That and a nice contingency budget.
Yes.
So, for contingencies, you make a mistake, that's okay, we're covered.
Right.
So
that's a good thing.
Yeah.
All right. Rick, it's been great for you to share part of your story and of your life and this journey that you have on making a movie now about something in the Carolinas, the Wilkes County Line. So I look forward to us chatting again.
I look forward to it too. Just call me anytime.
Right.
Loved being here. Great place.
Thanks, Ray.
Thank you so much.
Right,
appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Life in the Carolinas podcast. If you enjoyed your time with us, please visit the show's website at lifeinthecarolinas.com. Join our mailing list, and we'll keep you updated every week on what we have coming up and other interesting things around the Carolinas. We value you as a podcast subscriber. We'll see you next week. And remember what Carl says, it's never a bad time for a good story.